My dear sister, the moment a woman stops begging to be understood, stops chasing validation, and stops allowing emotionally weak people to control her peace, something dangerous happens. She becomes calm, and emotionally weak people fear calm women the most. Because a woman who trusts Allah no longer reacts to every insult, every silence, or every rejection. She learns how to protect her heart quietly. And once a woman masters that, people can no longer manipulate her emotions the way they used to. 1. A smart woman never begs to be understood, my sister. One of the most painful things a woman experiences in life is constantly feeling the need to explain her heart to people who already decided to misunderstand her. You explain why you became quiet. You explain why certain things hurt you. You explain your intentions, your loyalty, your emotions, your silence. Again and again, hoping maybe this time they will finally understand you correctly. But emotionally weak people rarely listen to understand. Most of them listen only to defend themselves, control the situation, or make you feel guilty for having emotions in the first place. And this is why so many good women become emotionally exhausted. Because they spend years trying to prove their purity to people who secretly enjoy doubting them. A smart woman eventually realizes something powerful. Not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. Not every accusation deserves a response. And not every person deserves unlimited access to your emotional energy. Some people are committed to seeing you through the lens of their own insecurity, no matter how honest you are with them. Even if you explain yourself perfectly, they will still twist your words. Even if you cry in front of them, they will still question your sincerity. Even if you sacrifice your peace trying to keep them comfortable, they will still find reasons to complain about you. And one day, after enough emotional disappointment, a wise woman becomes quieter. Not because she lost her voice, but because she finally understood that peace is more valuable than constant emotional defense. My sister, there is dignity in silence. There is strength in emotional control. And there is power in no longer needing everyone to agree with your heart before you feel worthy. The world today teaches women to constantly seek validation from people, validation from relationships, validation from attention, validation from compliments, validation from social media. But a woman connected to Allah slowly learns that human validation is unstable. People change quickly. Their opinions change quickly. The same people praising you today may criticize you tomorrow. So why build your emotional stability on people whose hearts change like the wind? Allah already knows your intentions. Allah already saw your tears nobody else noticed. Allah already heard the silent pain you never explained to anyone. And when a woman truly understands this, she stops over-explaining herself to every person who questions her value. Because deep peace begins when your heart becomes more concerned with Allah's opinion than people's opinions. A smart woman understands that protecting her emotional peace is not arrogance. It is wisdom. She no longer chases people trying to force emotional understanding. She no longer writes long messages trying to prove her goodness. She no longer destroys her mental health trying to convince emotionally immature people to respect her heart. Instead, she becomes calmer, more emotionally disciplined, more careful with her energy. And strangely, that quiet confidence becomes powerful. Because emotionally weak people expect reactions. They expect emotional chaos. They expect you to beg to be understood. But when a woman finally learns her worth through Allah, she stops handing people the power to emotionally control her. And that is the moment her silence becomes stronger than words. 2. Emotionally, weak men feed on reactions, my sister. One of the most dangerous things a woman can do is give emotional control of her heart to a man who has never learned how to control his own emotions. Because emotionally weak men often survive on reactions. They feel powerful when they can disturb your peace. They feel important when they can make you overthink. They feel in control when they can confuse your emotions and keep your heart emotionally unstable. And sadly, many women do not notice this in the beginning. At first it looks like love, attention, concern, possessiveness, strong emotions. But over time, the relationship slowly becomes emotionally exhausting. One day he is extremely loving. The next day he becomes cold and distant without explanation. One moment he gives attention. The next moment he ignores you to make you chase him emotionally. And without realizing it, you slowly begin living in emotional confusion. You start checking your phone constantly, replaying conversations at night, analyzing every small change in energy, blaming yourself for problems you did not create. And this is how emotionally weak people quietly drain strong hearts, because they need emotional reactions to feel validated inside themselves. A mature man brings emotional safety, but an emotionally weak man creates emotional instability. He provokes reactions because chaos makes him feel powerful. Sometimes he uses silence to punish you. Sometimes he manipulates your emotions by making you feel guilty for expressing pain. Sometimes he disappears emotionally just to see how desperately you will chase him. And my sister, this is why emotional discipline is one of the greatest forms of protection for a woman. A smart woman learns not every emotion deserves expression, not every disrespect deserves tears, not every argument deserves a response. Because reacting emotionally to every situation slowly gives people control over your inner peace. And once someone realizes they can easily control your emotions, they begin controlling your confidence too. That is why wise women become careful with their reactions. Not cold, not heartless, just emotionally aware. They understand that silence can protect dignity, calmness can expose manipulation, and emotional self-control can save a heart from destruction. Islam teaches emotional balance beautifully, even during pain, even during anger, even during disappointment. The strongest people are not those who scream the loudest. The strongest people are those who control themselves when emotions become intense. And this is where many women become truly powerful. The moment they stop reacting to every emotionally immature behavior, the moment they stop begging for consistency from inconsistent people, the moment they stop explaining their pain to people who secretly enjoy creating it, everything changes. Because emotionally weak men become uncomfortable when a woman becomes emotionally disciplined. They expect emotional chaos, but instead they meet calmness. They expect desperation, but instead they meet dignity. They expect endless reactions, but instead they meet silence and self-respect. My sister, never allow temporary emotions to destroy your long-term peace. Not every message deserves a reply. Not every insult deserves your tears. Not every emotionally immature person deserves unlimited access to your heart. A smart woman protects her emotional energy carefully because she understands something many people learn too late. Whoever controls your emotions slowly controls your peace. And when a woman finally learns to stay calm in situations designed to disturb her, she becomes emotionally dangerous in the most beautiful way. Because now her peace no longer depends on people, it depends on Allah. 3. A strong woman walks away from disrespect, my sister. One of the saddest things in life is watching a good woman slowly lose herself trying to stay loyal to people who continuously disrespect her heart. At first, she ignores the small signs, the dismissive tone, the lack of appreciation, the emotional inconsistency, the jokes that secretly wound her confidence, the moments where her feelings are treated like a burden instead of something valuable. She notices these things, but because her heart is sincere, she keeps making excuses for people. She tells herself maybe they are stressed, maybe they are struggling, maybe they did not mean it. Maybe if she becomes more patient, more understanding, more loving, things will finally change. But my sister, a strong woman eventually realizes something painful. Love without respect slowly destroys the soul, because disrespect is not always loud. Sometimes disrespect is being ignored repeatedly while someone expects full access to your emotions. Sometimes disrespect is only being valued when you are useful. Sometimes disrespect is constantly being manipulated emotionally while your loyalty is taken for granted. And sometimes the deepest disrespect is when someone knows they are hurting your heart, but continues anyway because they believe you will never leave. This is why emotionally weak people often become comfortable hurting kind women. They mistake patience for weakness. They mistake forgiveness for emotional dependency. And they assume your soft heart means you will tolerate unlimited pain. But a wise woman reaches a point where her soul becomes tired. Tired of carrying relationships alone. Tired of over-explaining her feelings. Tired of pretending disrespect does not hurt her. And slowly, something changes inside her. She begins understanding that walking away is not always hatred. Sometimes walking away is self-respect. Islam never teaches a woman to destroy herself emotionally just to keep people comfortable. Allah did not create your heart to become a prison for toxic treatment. Your kindness should never become permission for people to emotionally misuse you. And this is something many women learn too late. You can be patient without tolerating abuse. You can forgive without reconnecting. You can love people and still choose distance for the protection of your peace. A strong woman understands this balance. She does not walk away because she hates people. She walks away because she finally loves herself enough to stop accepting emotional harm. My sister, there comes a dangerous moment in a woman's healing journey when she finally stops fearing loneliness. That moment changes everything. Because many women stay in painful situations, not because they are happy, but because they fear being alone. They fear losing attachment. They fear emotional emptiness. They fear starting over. So they continue tolerating disrespect, hoping things will magically improve one day. But emotionally mature women understand something powerful. Loneliness hurts less than constantly begging for basic respect. Read that again carefully. Loneliness hurts less than waking up every day feeling emotionally unwanted. Loneliness hurts less than constantly questioning your worth because of someone else's behavior. Loneliness hurts less than crying secretly while pretending everything is fine. And once a woman understands this deeply, she becomes harder to emotionally manipulate, because emotionally weak people often depend on your fear of leaving. They believe you will continue tolerating mistreatment because your heart is attached. But when a woman becomes emotionally connected to Allah instead of emotionally addicted to people, her standards become stronger. She no longer chases inconsistent love. She no longer fights for people who comfortably disrespect her peace. She no longer sacrifices her mental health just to avoid disappointing others. Instead, she becomes calmer, more selective, more emotionally disciplined. And strangely, that quiet self-respect becomes intimidating to emotionally immature people, because people are used to controlling women through guilt, through fear, through emotional confusion. But a woman who knows her worth through Allah becomes difficult to control, not because she becomes arrogant, but because she finally understands that her value does not decrease simply because someone failed to appreciate her correctly. My sister, never beg for love that comes with humiliation. Never beg for attention from someone who only notices your value when you become distant. Never stay somewhere your heart constantly feels emotionally unsafe. A strong woman knows when to stop fighting for people who stopped protecting her feelings a long time ago. And one of the most beautiful forms of strength is quietly walking away from disrespect without needing revenge, drama, or endless explanations. Just peace, just dignity, just trust in Allah. Because sometimes Allah removes your attachment to certain people so your heart can finally return back to Him. And the moment a woman learns to walk away from what disrespects her soul, she begins becoming emotionally free. 4. Peace becomes more important than attention, my sister. There comes a moment in a woman's life where she becomes emotionally tired of chasing things that never truly brought peace to her heart in the first place. Tired of chasing attention, tired of chasing reassurance, tired of chasing people who only value her when she becomes emotionally distant. And slowly, without even realizing it, her priorities begin changing. The attention that once excited her no longer feels important. The constant need to be noticed starts disappearing. The emotional hunger for validation slowly becomes weaker, because maturity teaches a woman something powerful. Attention and peace are not the same thing. Many people receive attention every day, yet still cry themselves to sleep at night. Many people look admired online, yet secretly feel emotionally empty inside. Many people are surrounded by conversations, compliments, and relationships, yet their hearts still feel restless, because attention cannot heal a soul disconnected from peace. And this is where smart women begin changing deeply. They stop asking, "Who is noticing me?" and they begin asking, "What is protecting my peace?" That question changes everything. Because once peace becomes your priority, you stop entertaining emotionally draining people. You stop forcing conversations that exhaust your heart. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop chasing temporary validation from people who themselves are emotionally unstable. And most importantly, you stop abandoning yourself just to keep receiving attention from others. My sister, one of the most dangerous addictions in today's world is emotional validation. The addiction to being constantly noticed, constantly desired, constantly reassured, constantly emotionally fed by people. And emotionally weak people know this. That is why they often use attention as a form of emotional control. They give attention, then remove it suddenly. They become affectionate, then emotionally distant. They make you emotionally dependent on their approval. And before you realize it, your mood begins depending on how they treat you. Your happiness depends on their messages. Your confidence depends on their attention. Your peace depends on their behavior. And this is how many beautiful hearts slowly lose themselves emotionally. Because anytime your peace depends entirely on another human being, you become emotionally vulnerable to instability. But a wise woman eventually becomes exhausted by emotional inconsistency. Exhausted by overthinking, exhausted by trying to decode mixed signals, exhausted by needing constant reassurance just to feel emotionally safe. And after enough heartbreak, something inside her changes permanently. She no longer wants excitement more than peace. She no longer wants attention more than sincerity. She no longer wants temporary emotional highs followed by emotional suffering. Instead, She craves calmness, stability, silence. And this is one of the most beautiful transformations a woman can experience. Because once a woman falls in love with peace, emotionally immature people stop impressing her. The loud charm no longer affects her. The manipulative attention no longer controls her. The inconsistency no longer excites her. Because her soul has already tasted the exhaustion of emotional chaos before, and she never wants to return there again. My sister, Islam teaches something very beautiful about the heart. A heart attached to Allah becomes calmer than a heart attached to people. Because people change constantly, people disappoint constantly, people leave unexpectedly. But Allah never abandons the sincere heart that continues returning to Him. And this is why emotionally mature women become more private with their hearts over time. Not because they hate people, but because they learned the hard way that not everyone deserves deep emotional access to them. They become careful with their energy, careful with attachment, careful with who they allow close to their emotions. Because peace is expensive, and protecting peace sometimes requires distance from emotionally draining people. A smart woman understands that every conversation does not deserve her emotional investment. Every relationship does not deserve unlimited access to her heart. Every compliment does not deserve emotional attachment. And every person who gives attention is not automatically sincere. That wisdom protects her. My sister, never confuse attention with love. Never confuse emotional intensity with emotional maturity. And never confuse temporary excitement with inner peace. Because many emotionally weak people know how to create emotional excitement, but very few know how to protect a woman's peace. A mature woman eventually reaches a level where silence feels safer than unnecessary conversations, where solitude feels healthier than fake connections, where emotional stability feels more attractive than temporary passion. And once she reaches this stage, her entire energy changes. She becomes harder to manipulate, harder to emotionally confuse, harder to emotionally control. Because now, she is no longer desperately searching for validation from people. She already found something greater, inner peace with Allah. And my sister, that type of peace is rare, it is powerful, it is healing. And emotionally weak people can feel when a woman no longer depends on their attention to feel valuable. That is why calm women intimidate insecure people. Because a peaceful woman cannot easily be emotionally controlled anymore. She does not panic when someone becomes distant, does not lose herself trying to force love. She does not destroy her dignity chasing emotional reassurance. Instead, she remains calm, grounded, emotionally disciplined, and deeply connected to Allah. Because she finally understood something many people spend their entire lives learning too late. Peace is worth more than attention, and protecting your heart is sometimes the highest form of self-respect. 5. The most powerful woman is the one who controls her heart, my sister. Real power was never what this world told you it was. The world tells women power is beauty, attention, popularity, followers, admiration, being desired by many people. But none of these things truly protect a woman's heart. Because a woman can receive endless attention and still feel emotionally broken inside. She can look confident outside while secretly battling anxiety, attachment, loneliness, and emotional exhaustion within herself. And this is why the strongest women are not always the loudest women. The strongest women are the ones who learned how to control their hearts when life tried to emotionally destroy them. Because emotional control is one of the rarest forms of strength today. Anyone can react emotionally. Anyone can become attached quickly. Anyone can lose themselves chasing temporary feelings. But controlling the heart, protecting the heart, disciplining the heart, that requires wisdom, that requires healing, that requires closeness to Allah. My sister, many women are not suffering because they are weak. They are suffering because they allowed their hearts to become emotionally dependent on unstable people. And emotional dependency quietly destroys peace. You begin needing constant reassurance, constant communication, constant attention, constant emotional validation. And once your heart becomes dependent on another human being for emotional stability, fear enters your life. Fear of losing them, fear of being ignored, fear of abandonment, fear of distance, fear of replacement. And slowly, your emotions begin controlling you instead of you controlling your emotions. This is why emotionally weak people easily manipulate attached hearts. Because they know your peace depends on them. They know your mood changes based on their behavior. They know silence from them can ruin your entire day. And my sister, that is not emotional freedom. That is emotional captivity. A powerful woman refuses to become a prisoner of unhealthy attachment. Not because she lacks emotions, but because she understands emotions without discipline can destroy a beautiful heart. That is why mature women become careful with attachment, careful with who they trust emotionally, careful with who they allow deep access to their heart, because they understand that not everyone who enters your life deserves permanent emotional residence inside your soul. Some people only enter to teach lessons, some enter to expose wounds that still need healing, and some enter to test whether your heart belongs more to people or to Allah. This is where true emotional strength begins. When a woman starts asking herself difficult questions. Why am I becoming emotionally attached so quickly? Why do I feel emotionally destroyed when certain people become distant? Why does my peace disappear whenever someone changes their behavior toward me? These questions matter deeply because sometimes the real issue is not love. Sometimes the real issue is emotional dependencies disguised as love. And there is a dangerous difference between the two. Love can be peaceful. Love can be sincere. Love can bring emotional safety. But dependency creates fear. Dependency creates anxiety. Dependency creates emotional desperation. A woman who depends entirely on people emotionally will constantly feel unstable because human beings are naturally imperfect. Only Allah is constant. Only Allah is permanent. Only Allah can fully heal the emptiness inside the heart. And once a woman understands this deeply, her entire emotional life begins changing. She stops worshipping attention, stops worshipping relationships, stops worshipping people emotionally, and instead, she starts protecting her connection with Allah above everything else. My sister, one of the signs of emotional maturity is learning how to feel emotions without allowing emotions to control your decisions. A strong woman still feels pain, still feels sadness, still feels disappointment, still feels heartbreak, but she does not allow temporary emotions to make her lose dignity. She does not beg for love. She does not humiliate herself chasing people. She does not destroy her self-respect trying to keep someone who continuously hurts her heart. Instead, she feels the pain quietly, she heals privately, and she gives her broken emotions back to Allah. That is real strength. And honestly, emotionally weak people become uncomfortable around women like this because they cannot easily manipulate women who control their emotions. They cannot control women who remain calm under pressure. They cannot emotionally confuse women who already found peace within themselves. A woman who controls her heart becomes emotionally dangerous in the most beautiful way because now she no longer reacts to every disappointment, no longer panics over distance, no longer loses herself trying to be chosen by people. She already knows her value, and her value no longer depends on human approval. My sister, never allow loneliness to make you desperate for unhealthy attachment. Loneliness is temporary, but emotional damage from the wrong people can stay in the heart for years. This is why wise women become selective. Selective with friendships, selective with relationships, selective with emotional attachment. Not everyone deserves access to your soft side. Not everyone deserves your vulnerability. Not everyone deserves unlimited chances after repeatedly disrespecting your peace. And protecting your heart is not coldness, it is wisdom. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught balance in emotions beautifully. Islam never teaches emotional recklessness. It teaches discipline, patience, self-respect, inner stability. And the closer a woman becomes to Allah, the calmer her heart becomes during emotional storms, because now her peace no longer depends on people staying. Her peace depends on Allah remaining close to her heart. And Allah never abandons the sincere believer. My sister, there is something incredibly powerful about a woman who finally heals emotionally. A woman who no longer cries for validation, no longer begs to be chosen, no longer competes for attention, no longer loses sleep trying to understand inconsistent people. Instead, she becomes deeply peaceful, deeply grounded, deeply emotionally aware. And this calmness changes everything around her, because emotionally weak people survive on emotional chaos. But a woman who controls her heart cannot easily be shaken anymore. She may still feel pain, but pain no longer controls her identity. She may still love people, but love no longer blinds her wisdom. She may still care deeply, but she no longer destroys herself trying to save relationships Allah is removing from her life. And my sister, that is one of the highest levels of emotional power a woman can reach. When she finally realizes that the greatest form of strength is not controlling other people, but controlling herself. Because the woman who controls her heart protects her peace, protects her dignity, protects her connection with Allah. And that woman becomes impossible to emotionally break. My sister, never forget this. The people who truly value you will never force you to beg for basic respect, emotional safety, or peace. A smart woman does not lose herself trying to be loved by emotionally mature people. She protects her heart, protects her dignity, protects her connection with Allah. And the moment a woman stops allowing people to control her emotions, her entire life begins changing. Because real power was never in chasing attention. Real power was always in controlling your heart when life tries to break it. So walk with peace, walk with self-respect, walk with trust in Allah, and let emotionally weak people realize too late they lost access to a woman who finally learned her worth.